Nebraska fans deserve better. It's time for a change. You're watching Right on Cue College Sports. Welcome in, welcome back. Thanks for checking us out. You are watching Right on Cue College Sports. I am your host, Tyson Quiller, and college football is back, baby. And man, that was a lot of fun as the college football season kind of did a soft launch to the season yesterday. It's going to get going more so in full measure coming up this Thursday, and then this weekend we have a full slate of games. Moving forward, we're going to probably be doing like a 30 to 40 minute episode each week, kind of recapping the games from the week before and then previewing the upcoming games. But today's going to be a shorter episode. Just wanted to get a few of my thoughts and reflections out, as I think there are some real storylines coming out of the 11-game Week 0 slate that we saw yesterday. But let's start right here with the headliner. Nebraska favored by 11 points against the Northwestern Wildcats. This game took place in Dublin, Ireland. All of the college football eyes were on this one. Now, Nebraska was down 3 at halftime, and I'll admit, even I was kind of like, oh boy, is Nebraska going to do this again? But they came out in the second half swinging. You had an 8-play, 88-yard drive capped off by an Anthony Grant touchdown. And then, just as it seemed that Northwestern was kind of marching down the field, the Huskers come up with a big forced fumble. 2 plays later, Anthony Grant rumbles for 46 yards and a touchdown again. Everyone at this point was kind of saying the same thing. Well, we knew Nebraska was much more talented because of recruiting and transfer portal pickups. It was just a matter of time before they pulled away, right? Well, as Lee Corso says, not so fast, my friend. So you're up 28-17, you have all the momentum in the world halfway through the third quarter, and Frost's coaching staff calls for an inexplicable onside kick attempt. I mean, the kicker dribbled it directly to a running back. You couldn't try and target like a primarily defensive player. This completely changed the complexion of the game. The Huskers had all the momentum and then just gave it all away, all in one moment. Brock Heward really kind of said it best. As we watched things unfold down the stretch, Pat Fitzgerald was looking across the sideline and saying, we're going to make Scott Frost take it from us. We are not giving them anything. I mean, multiple times the announcer talked about how conservative Northwestern was, play calling, running it on third downs and punting, playing field position. With far less talent on the field, Fitzgerald just straight up outcoached Scott Frost in the second half. I mean, tell me what you think, Husker fans. I mean, I just know that I was watching and knowing deep down every play, Nebraska is going to find a way to lose this game. That's just a terrible feeling you've got to have if you're a Husker fan. Listen, for all those people out there devoting their lives and existences to like worshiping, recruiting, and transfer portal activity, I mean, I've heard people like Colin Cowherd say like nothing is more important than getting the best players, and if they don't have a high recruiting class, just throw them out. They can't win any meaningful games. And I have to be careful myself with all the analytics that I prepare to remember the game is played on the field for a reason. This is what is so great about college sports and sports in general, is there are times when David does slay Goliath. Against all odds, the better coach with the far inferior talent beats the worst coach with the star-studded talent. Now, speaking of those stars for Nebraska, the number 12 transfer in the country, defensive end Ochoan Mathis, was a complete non-factor in this game. And the Huskers' D-line, quite frankly, was atrocious. Northwestern's O-line completely bullied them all game as they ran for 213 yards. Listen, folks, we are a long way away from the vaunted black shirt defenses of old. On Northwestern's final drive, they did everything they wanted to, and exactly what they wanted to. I mean, 9 plays, 53 yards, eating up 4 minutes and 18 seconds off the clock. They forced Nebraska to burn all 3 of their timeouts. They ran the ball right up the middle 9 straight times. I mean, it was embarrassing to watch. Like a big brother hitting his younger brother in the face with his own hand, saying, like, stop hitting yourself, stop hitting yourself. I mean, it was so embarrassing. There's a real culture problem here in Lincoln. They just flat do not know how to win close games. I'm watching Tommy Hill, the Arizona State transfer safety, jumping around, shouting, and celebrating when the Huskers finally did stop that drive. And I'm just like, what are you thinking? Like, what is going through your head when you're doing that? Like, you do not understand the greater concept of the game. Like, Northwestern did exactly what they wanted to do. And then their punter pinned Nebraska down deep at the 4-yard line. Like, what is there to celebrate, Tommy? You know, check this out. This defense gave up 527 yards to an offense that was 116th in the nation last year. That is just pathetic. I mean, Northwestern is better than we thought, but not that much better. I mean, there are real problems on this defensive unit. Now, the Huskers did get the ball back with 2:21 left, but they had no timeouts, and they were in the shadow of their own end zone, like I said. Casey Thompson, who is just clearly an Adrian Martinez redux, throws back-to-back midfield 5-yard out routes, like not far enough to have the first down stop the clock and not wide enough to the sideline so that the receiver could get out of bounds to stop the clock. It's just like there was no sense of urgency, of understanding time and place of the game. Ultimately, Scott Frost's Huskers' attempt at a game-winning drive went out with a whimper. 3 plays, netting just 17 yards, and Northwestern's victory was sealed on the second of those 2 really weak, flaccid 5-yard outs with an interception. Now, as a Colorado fan, I really do enjoy watching Nebraska struggle, but this is ridiculous at this point. The Huskers now have a 5-16 record in 1-score games under Frost. You know, because the problems are not just on offense, and they're not just on defense, but on both, and on special teams, and terrible play calling. I mean, there's just clearly a rotted out culture here, and Husker fans just quite frankly deserve better. This loss was just inexcusable. Scott Frost needs to go. And now's the time to do it. You have 2 very inferior opponents in North Dakota and Georgia Southern coming up next. You know, kind of give the interim coach some time to make changes, attempt to dismantle this like loser culture there, and build something back better in its place. Now, as for Northwestern, well, I mean, you really have something to build on here. How about Mr. Ryan Helinski? Boy, who saw this coming? After passing for less than 1,000 yards last year on just 54% completion percentage, he threw for 313 on 71% yesterday. Goodness. The Wildcats almost had 2 guys go for over 100 yards on the ground in Hull and Porter. I have to tip my cap to Pat Fitzgerald. If there is a coach in America out there that does more with less, I quite frankly don't know who that is. So they get Duke, Southern Illinois, and Miami of Ohio in the next 3. I mean, if they could play disciplined and together like they did yesterday, Northwestern can kind of get on a roll here. Now, the next game I want to discuss is Wyoming versus Illinois. This game was played in Champaign, and the Illini were favored by 13.5 points. I want to first come at this from the Cowboy perspective, because that's kind of the local team here. Listen, you have to take some chances at some point, right? I mean, this was not a very good Illinois team, and really Wyoming should have been able to hang around in this one. But you punted 5 times in the first half, and you settled for a field goal in the first half on 4th and goal from the 6. Take a chance. You can't be trading 7s for 3s. Then you settle for a field goal to start things off in the second half when it was 4th and 4 from the 28. Why not go for it there? I mean, if you went for it and converted and went on to get touchdowns on those 2 drives, the score is 14-17 instead of 6-17, and the game looks completely different. Then, after a good defensive stand on 4th and 2 from the 49-yard line, you turn to a bad punting game again, rather than going for it. I don't understand. And ultimately, Illinois fair caught the punt at the 22. That's a net 29-yard punt. I mean, that does absolutely nothing for you. So, Sure enough, next thing you know, Illinois marches right down the field. A couple of undisciplined defensive plays by the Cowboys D sets up a touchdown, and the game's out of hand at that point, 24-6. I mean, the game was over by the time they did finally get around to going for it, the one time they did all game on 4th down. And this was from their own 45-yard line. They lined up 4 tight ends. I mean, everyone in the stadium knew it was going to be a quarterback sneak, and it got completely blown up, obviously. I mean, how can it be possible that Andrew Peasley is your best option at quarterback? He threw for just 30 yards on 25% completion percentage. Average yards per pass, 1.5. I mean, what is that? I mean, we knew the offense was going to struggle, but this was really bad. And now Gunnar Gentry tearing his ACL. I mean, there's basically no weapons on this offense at all. But what was the real disappointment, though, was how bad this defense looked. They gave up over 200 yards passing and rushing to an offense that was 112th in the nation last season. The defense didn't force any turnovers, and they let Tommy DeVito, the Illinois quarterback who passed for just 388 yards and 1 touchdown last year, they let him get off for 194 yards, 2 touchdowns on 71% completion percentage. I mean, they had no pressure all game, coming up with 0 sacks. Hey man, Craig Bull needs to have a long sit-down strategy meeting with OC Tim Polasek and really get the offensive playbook trimmed down. They also need to strategize about what I was griping about a minute ago. You have to take some chances. You have to. You can't wait till the game's out of hand to finally take some chances. And Bull needs to sit down with the defensive coordinator, Jay Sawville, and tell him, like, hey, you need to run the defense to Montana and back. Punishment needs to be doled out for this performance. I mean, you expected struggles on offense, but the defense cannot just quit like this. Now, as for Illinois, I'm not ready to say the Illinois offense is that much better than what we thought. I mean, this Wyoming defense played really, really bad, and their offense gave Illinois great field position all day. Now, DeVito was steady, and Chase Brown at running back looks like he could be a real weapon now. Next week at Indiana, we'll reveal a lot more about this unit's progress on offense. Now, I do think the Illinois defense is improved, though. But again, it's kind of hard to decipher because this was a decimated Wyoming offense. Illinois' defense was unable to come up with a sack in this game, but I was impressed with how disciplined they were on 3rd down. The Illini held Wyoming to just 1 conversion on 12 3rd down attempts. They also forced 2 turnovers. Brett Bielema might have something cooking there. Now, there were a few other teams of note that played on Saturday. Florida State and North Carolina both got big wins, but against far inferior opponents. I mean, really, those games were just kind of more for enjoyment, and maybe, try a few quirky plays at the end of the playbook, maybe get some scrubs, some guys further down the roster, and depth chart some reps. But there's really not much else you can take away from those games. Now let's turn to a new segment on the show, a new tradition we're starting, and it's called Right on Cue Player Highlight. On the offense, how about Doug Broomfield, the QB from UNLV? I mean, could this dude save Marcus Arroyo's job? We will see. Now, they did play Idaho State, but Broomfield went for 356 yards passing and 4 touchdowns. He had a 256.4 passer rating. That's unbelievable, as UNLV won the game 52-21. And on the defensive side, how about the senior Utah State Aggie safety, Gervin Hall Jr.? The Miami Hurricanes transfer came up with 6 sacks on the day as Utah State beat the Yukon Huskies 31-20. All right then, let's wrap things up. Now, I know this was a shorter episode than you're accustomed to seeing, but we'll be getting back to kind of a 30 to 40 minute long format moving forward beginning next week, kind of recapping games from the previous week, previewing the upcoming slate of games. As the college football season really gets going in full measure here starting Thursday, we're going to get our first look at the number 12 Oklahoma State Cowboys. You got the backyard brawl, West Virginia at number 17 Pittsburgh, a team you know I'm very high on. We'll get our first look at the number 22 Wake Forest Demon Deacons. Remember, without their stud quarterback, Sam Hartman. And the big game for the day on Thursday is going to be Penn State at Purdue. You know I'm very high on Purdue as well. I think I'm probably picking Purdue in that game. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share this content with anyone you think might find it interesting. Send me your feedback at RightOnQCS on Twitter, RightOnQCS at gmail.com. And don't forget now, you can check me out over on Spotify and Apple iTunes with Alan Blankers on the Fan Section podcast, as we'll be getting that thing kicked off here pretty soon. But with all that being said, thanks for watching. Thanks for checking us out. You have been watching Right on Cue College Sports. I'm your host, Tyson Quiller, and we will get at you next time.
Van Dyke kicks it off. Picked up. Tyree. Here's Tyree with the lane. Tyree! Whoa! Can he get there? Tyree at the 30, 20, 10, touchdown, Notre Dame!
Boise State for the win. They hand it off to Johnson. Boise State has won the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl.
Wow. Michigan at the 41. What a hit! Ball's free on the ground. South Carolina deserves to have it, and they do. USC brings some pressure. They get to Chanel, and there it goes. Laviska Chanel. They are not going to catch it.
Michigan still got a timeout. The kick is blocked. It's picked up. Michigan State's got it.
Snap from Patrick Lewis. Four-man Alabama rush. Got him. Oh, no, they didn't. Oh, my gracious. How about that? 30 yards. On first down now, another play fake. And again, trying to get away. Stays alive and throws a pick. Throw it right to the defender. Down the sideline, Roland Robertson is going to be tracked down from behind. The ball comes out. Second down now. Deep strike. Got the big man. Country. Pulls free. And touchdown.
Showing the young clubhouse now. The baptism. Fournette into the secondary. Runs over a man. Leonard Fournette.
Was presented by the National Football Foundation. Martinez is throwing over the middle. He finds Jamal Turner. And
Kenny Bell. Turner. Touchdown Nebraska. 56-yarder. No, does not have the leg. And Chris Davis takes it in the back of the end zone. He'll run it out to the 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 45. There goes Davis. Oh my God. Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game. Auburn's going to win the football game. Second down and 8. Throw all the way. Henry on the flat. Nice cut back to the middle of the field. There goes Henry. There is Henry. Goodbye, Mr. Henry. Touchdown. And back, Redland Lawrence flips it open. Wide open. Justin Rush. Off and running.